All right, all right, all right. Ah! Like I'm running, I'm so excited because there is so much frustration and confusion as it comes to the topic of plateaus. And the thing is, sometimes we cover topics that people people are like, yeah, I've heard of that, but that's never. I'm pretty sure everyone here has experienced a plateau. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at it scientifically. What is a plateau? What causes a plateau? And more importantly, how we can break through it. But before we do, we've got to go to the scripture to get a genuine base for what we can do with this once we know what it is. And we're going to find today's scripture in John chapter 8, verses 31 and 32. Again, today's scripture in context to plateaus is going to be John 8, verses 31 and 32. To all who believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. One more time. To those who had believed, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Pretense. I think we all want freedom here. And quite often, no matter how we want to use the expletives we shouldn't use, that blank plateau often stands in the way of our freedom. And so, one thing that I've learned in speaking with people, especially when it comes to conflict resolution, is never forget your enemy thinks they're right too. And so, in terms of the plateau, it's not that they're trying to stop you from reaching your goals. It's that there are scientific things happening that we have to acknowledge before we can pivot and then move forward. So let's address what a plateau actually is. To understand that, we've got to first understand the first law of thermodynamics. What is the first law of thermodynamics? The first law of thermodynamics is that energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed, it can merely be transferred. So the first law of thermodynamics is that energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, it can merely be transferred. Why does that matter here? Because if we were to just sort of punch diet culture in the face and talked about a calorie openly, scientifically, a calorie is a measure of energy. So what does that mean? Well, calories are energy. And so what a plateau actually is it is balance, meaning the amount of calories you are intaking are equal to the amount of calories you are using. There is energy homeostasis. And the first reason a plateau happens is that your body has adapted. That's it. Your body has adapted, which means your caloric burn is equal to your caloric intake. That's the number. That's the first reason. You've reached a plateau because your calories in equal your calories out. The second reason, and this is the one where people don't like me, program non-compliance. Those are the two. Those are the two reasons why a plateau happens. Now, this is where we get to pleasantly debate, because people will say, no. My Aunt Stacy has these hormone issues, and okay. The first gut reaction is, so Stacy, so the laws of thermodynamics apply to everyone except Stacy. But the secondary reaction is, well, if Stacy does have a genuine medical condition, then she should have been prescribed a program or at least refer to a dietitian so that they could then manage their life within those parameters. How is Stacy doing with the program that the doctor prescribed her, or did she take the referral to see the dietitian? Well, no, program non-compliance. And so it's super important here to break up the fact that plateaus mean different things to different people. What we just talked about here was from a weight loss perspective. That is how a weight loss plateau occurs physiologically, either adaptation through homeostasis or program non-compliance. But y'all know me, I love my psychology as much as I love my science. We can't just stop there. Where a plateau happens for many, many people is psychological. And it actually goes into, well, why? Why are we having program non-compliance? And the biggest reason that most people lose their steam and get stuck in this rut of program non-compliance is they forget why they're doing this. So many people get stuck. I call it the island syndrome, where you've swam far enough off of the island that you can't see behind you. So maybe you've lost 20, 30, 40 pounds, but you still have another 20, 30, 40, 50 to go, and you can't see what's in front of you. And so you're kind of caught in the ocean asking yourself, well, what do I do now? And so mentally, we want to default and we want to say, well, I'm on a plateau, things have plateaued. But physiologically, we know that's not true. Because if you have hit an emotional plateau with your journey, chances are good you are not being compliant with the program that's been prescribed to you. And chances are also good that that program probably asked you to monitor your intake. You've not been monitoring it, so you don't even know how much energy you have coming in versus how many energy calories you have burnt going out. And we're still sort of in this ocean of going like, well, what do I do? Well, the easiest ways to break the plateaus are from the weight loss side. So we'll talk about those in a moment. But from the emotional side, how do we break the emotional plateau that we often reach when we find ourselves caught in the middle? Step one is to genuinely remember why you did this. And it's different for everyone, and that's what makes it gold. But when we forget our whys, it starts this very, very frustrating ripple effect of asking questions that we forgot the answer to. Like, is this even worth it? Why do I try? I always fail. And if you've ever worked with me in the past, you know I push back on you because the absolutes are so bothersome to me. Because most of you here have lost weight in the past, which means you can't say always because you've been successful. Many of you guys, though, have missed that missing link of how do I keep the weight off? We'll unpack that another time. But the first step in breaking the emotional plateau so you can get back to program compliance is one, remember why you started. Number two, remember why it matters. And those seem similar, but quite often they're different. Like with me in my life. So this all started because I was kicked out of an amusement park for being too fat to ride. And I was going to spite the world, and I was going to lose all this weight and get hecka sexy, and I'm going to show you. And that worked for like 120 pounds in 9 months. And then I gained all the weight back plus more. And it wasn't until I was in college, and a lot of you guys know this story, and someone from the rugby lacrosse team came up and they're like, yo, this is your third trip to the buffet. If your God can't save you from that, then maybe you shouldn't talk to my guys about how they're handling their alcohol situation. It was like, wow, they were right. My original why didn't quantify the what was at stake if I didn't do it. And for me, I didn't realize that as a believer in Jesus that people were actually paying attention to my actions. I had always thought when it was convenient for me as a musician, like, yes, people will pay attention because I am glorious. Look at the way I strum this guitar. Why wouldn't you pay attention? But when you stand up for anything you believe, people are going to pay attention, even on your off days. And I've learned that very roughly with parenting. Oh, somewhere along the way, I prayed for patience. God gave me children. Thanks. It never stops. People are always paying attention. So while you don't forget why you started, never forget why it matters. Because I believe so many of us have people who care about us, who love us, who want nothing more than to see us alive and thrive in that for as long as we possibly can. And while that might not be the top of your mind, it's very true. So step one, don't forget why you started. Step two, don't forget why it matters. And step three, and it's something that I it seems so silly to say, but it's true as well. Never forget that weight loss is possible. It is. But so many of us have battled this for so long that we forget that we have been successful before. But we didn't have the completed knowledge cycle we needed to keep it off. And we forget that. And so we go to these extremes in our lives sometimes when things aren't going our perfect way. I hate to tell you this, and I'm sorry if it's the first time you're hearing this. Life isn't perfect. Sorry. Feel free to throw digital tomatoes at me. Hopefully I won't have to eat one. But life isn't perfect. It's never been perfect, and it never will be perfect. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because when we're in these emotional plateaus, we convince ourselves that someday everything will fall into place and we'll have the right job that will allow us to do this, or we'll have the right amount of time that will allow us to do this, or we'll have the right support group that will allow us to do this. But I'm 39. I'm still waiting for a lot of the things that I thought were going to happen, that unless I'd have just done them, they never would have happened. The fun fact, the closest I got to a record deal was when I was trying to get a record deal. More funner fact, the closest I got to a book deal was when I was trying to get a book deal. Even more funner fact, the most weight loss success I had was when I was trying to lose weight. But so many of us stop trying, and rather than fighting for the future we could have, we start fighting to justify why it's okay to be stuck or find someone to blame as to why we're stuck. And if we just simply fought as hard for our future as we did to justify our present, oh my gosh, how many amazing things could be possible. And so, while I fully acknowledge, and we'll get there in a moment, I promise, about the scientific ways to break a plateau, I feel like digging into why so many of us are non-compliant needed to be addressed, because I feel that there's a genuine emotional plateau that a lot of us have. Because even if you're not in a place of success, but you want to try again, most of my friends, and y'all are my friends, most of my friends, this is not their first rodeo. And so even the concept of starting again is an emotional plateau because they've been through this again. But here's the thing, and I'm sure if you've spent any time with me, or if perhaps you've engaged with one of my programs, you know I'm different. Sometimes it's good, sometimes people hate me. I am what I am. But I can honestly say here that you can't, if you've never talked to me about weight loss, And if we've never worked together in some capacity, you can't say you've not tried everything, because there's something that experience brings that a lot of philosophy can't. And so when I talk to people, they're always like, "Oh, Jeremy, that makes so much sense. I wish someone else would have told me that sooner." Well, they don't know because they didn't lose weight. Like you wouldn't buy a house from someone who's never sold a house. So why do we take like weight loss from people who never lost weight? But their Instagram looks good. Yes, so do their abs, but they're not happy. They need a sandwich. Point is, when it comes to actually getting to a place of compliance with any program, not just mine, but any program, it starts by breaking the emotional plateau of why we're not doing that. And the easiest way is to do these three things. One, remember why you started, because it still matters. Two, remember why it matters, because there's an entire world just waiting on us to be the best version of us, whether it's for our benefit or for the benefit of others. If you are in the best health of your life, I'm pretty sure no one's going to complain. And if they complain about that, please send them my way. I will have some choice words with them, and they will lovingly, of course, but send them my way. And the third, and again, it's the most important, weight loss is truly possible. Because as we've discussed, the law of thermodynamics doesn't discriminate. It applies to all of us, which then brings us back to the science. What causes a plateau? Energy homeostasis or program noncompliance. I would wager that 99.9% of people who have that first issue for their plateau don't know it, because most people don't track what they're doing. You can't monitor, my fault, you can't manage what you don't monitor, which is why I'm such a huge fan of journaling. You may say, Jeremy, that is old. You are old, and so are your tactics. It's kept the weight off for 15 years, and if being right makes me old, then call me elderly. You check your bank account, don't you? Yes, you do. If you have credit cards, you probably check their statements. So if you can manage your money, and that isn't nearly as important as your health, it would make the most sense to manage your health as well, or at least be aware of it. Which then brings us to the second reason why an overwhelming majority of plateaus happen. Program non-compliance. Though this is not today's Bible study, but where there is no vision, the people will perish. Thank you, Hobby Lobby. Put it on everything. It deserves to be there. That is not a political statement. Don't jump on me if you don't like Hobby Lobby. If you do like Hobby Lobby, that's great. Again, non-political statement. It doesn't matter. We're here to talk about Jesus, and that's it. And weight loss and plateaus. Point being, still true, where there's no vision, the people will perish. Which is why so many people are uncompliant, because they either abandon their program or they don't have a program. And I think sometimes the worst thing of it all is the framing of, I'll figure it out. There is seldom, and I'm not swearing because this is the appropriate use of the word, there is such a, there's not, that is one of the most damning phrases, because I'll figure it out literally puts you in a situation where it's the blind leading the blind. It's the definition of insanity. I'll try what I've tried before. That helped me gain 160 pounds. No, it'll work this time. How? So to get to the point of being compliant, don't forget why you started. Don't forget why it matters. And don't forget that weight loss is possible. If you do those three things, my hope is that you'll remember, oh, yes, all of those three things. I'm going to get back to the program, which typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to show results. And while, yes, we live in such an on-demand society, whether it's our meals or our television, some things that are worthwhile take patience. Sorry, but it's true. Think of the most favorite, beloved piece of art you consume, whether it's music, movie, canvas. You didn't just press a button, it was there. Those songs had to be written, they had to be recorded, they had to be mastered. That takes time. The script had to be written, had to be cast, had to be acted, had to be. You get the point. The things we love the most take time. This is going to be no different. How does the scripture tie in? Great question, Stephanie. The scripture ties in because we as individuals love to make up reasons as to why weight loss is so hard, justify why we're stuck, and then blame it on a plateau. That's the reason why plateaus are so misunderstood, is because it becomes the whipping boy for us not being compliant to the programs we have in front of us. Whether it's the medical doctor, the physical therapist, the chiropractic, the crazy redheaded personal trainer who's a weight loss specialist, whomever is prescribing these programs to you who have the letters to do it. Quite often we'll blame the plateau and say, it's my hormones, or once I had this hysterectomy. And it's, so the laws of thermodynamics apply to everyone but you. And then it comes back to, well, no. So no, I'm saying, well, it is what you're saying. And then it's like, well, but then there is some science if you do have one of those existing conditions, but then the medical follow-up should be, they've already given you a program. So if someone perpetually has a sore back and they never do the physical therapy, program noncompliance. And so living in the truth is where freedom comes in. And so if we can look a plateau in the eye and say, all right, one of two ways we got here. I have not lost weight in a month. What is going on? Option one, homeostasis. Let me go back to my 4 weeks of journaling for both my exercise and my nutrition and do the math. Oh, I didn't. I don't have those. Program noncompliance. Let's get back at it. Super great question, Stephanie.